All right, Fit Fam and Health Fam, let's talk about nutrition. When talking about nutrition, what I want to focus on in particular is how do you build a healthy lifestyle curated around the food that you eat. Here's the first thing that I want to talk about. Food is medicine, food is fuel. Why do I specify that? Well, it's very easy to think about food and nutrition as a source of being able to build muscles or being able to focus on losing weight. And although that is true, and although that's obviously a lot of what I promote because I am the fitness guy, I have shoulders and I've become a professional athlete, what I'm really talking about is how does food impact everything that you do, from the way that you think, the way that you sleep, your relationships with the people around you in your life, your overall psychology. And yes, food does play that much of a critical role. When I think about food as a whole, we think about food being fuel or fuel being medicine. The important question is to always ask ourselves, for what? Well, it's beneath the curtain, right? It's actually what's going on inside of our body, inside of our tissue. To not make this, too much of a masterclass, but to really give you guys the 411, let's say we're talking about the study of what I like to call nutrigenomics. Nutrigenomics is more or less just basically the study of how does food impact your epigenome, how you look from the outside, and ultimately what's going on beneath the curtain, your genome or your genes. What we know is that we get half the genes from our parents, right? Genes from mom, genes from dad. What we don't know is that if I choose to eat a cinnamon roll every day for the next 20 years, it's going to generate genes of a mixture. If I choose to eat an apple every day, same genome, it's going to secrete and make different genes. How this looks and ultimately how it makes me feel are going to be night and day different, even though they're both a carbohydrate and even though they both have some form of sugar. So again, not to create too much of a masterclass, but I want to get you to understand that idea and that notion, because what ultimately I want to talk about is that there's foods that are going to be really good for you, that are going to allow you to have energy, they're going to have vitality, you're going to be able to wake up in the morning and you'll notice that you might be sore, you might be stiff, you still have stress, but you feel good as a whole. You feel very much you feel very capable, right? That's a confident feeling. This is your food group A. These are your types of whole foods, right? Your vegetables, your proteins, your fruits, right? Things like that. Then you get over here, you start talking about hyper palatable processed foods. Okay, so these are a lot of foods that you're finding in grocery stores or going through the drive-through. And at one point it was food and it's been processed, it's been heat processed, and then it's been shifted, it's been added and colors and all these different things, right? And these foods are null or void of nutrients or key nutrients that our body actually might need. These things we want to mitigate and not put as much of in our body. Okay, great. Now that we've established that, let's talk about these four quadrants. And the reason I want to talk about these four quadrants are because they play such a significant role ultimately in how we begin to think about food. So let's say you're somebody who's like, well, I just eat what my parents have given me. You might be in a position where you think about yourself in quadrant one. And quadrant one is one of these boxes that just has a ton of hyper-palatable, hyper-processed foods. You might be eating out frequently. Okay, well, if you're doing that, but you're thinking that that's just food, you're unconscious of how bad that food might be and ultimately how it might be impacting you. And you're in a level of incompetence, not because you're an incompetent person, but because you just don't know that you're operating suboptimal of what you're capable of. Once we begin to have the conversation, we begin to say, hey, Jack, or hey, Jill, you're eating these foods in quadrant one, but really you should be focusing on being more widespread. If you can eat some of these foods, you should also eat some of these other foods that have minerals and vitamins and phytonutrients and micronutrients, right? And so now you're aware, even though you're still living in quadrant one, that you should spend some time over here in quadrant two. And that has now put you officially into conscious competence. You know you should do better, and you know why, but will you or will you not? Most of the time, some people, many of us get stuck here and we never find ourselves making the change. And you might find yourself or find people that you know who are like, I gotta do better. I gotta start doing this. I gotta start doing that. I'm gonna, really put this down. I'm gonna start going to stuff like that happens very frequently. What we wanna do is eventually move you down into the next quadrant. I call this quadrant 3. And this is your conscious competence. You're now actively very hyper aware of the decisions that you're making around the food that you're putting in your body. When you're putting this food in your body, it's allowing you to feel better. The problem with conscious competence is it requires an elite level of awareness. You need to be so mindful, so critical. Okay, I have my 4 ounces of water. Okay, I take these exact 4 pills at this time and these exact 3 pills at this time. And then before I go to bed, I take this pill. And then I also can't eat this thing because that's bad, right? It's gonna be super inflammatory, it's gonna make me feel bad, and this is what I should be doing. And you don't have the best relationship with food. Ultimately, about quadrant 3, then it's not sustainable. Here's something I want you to take with you. If something is not sustainable, it's not successful. If it's not sustainable, probably not gonna be successful. So it's great that you can do this for a week. Resolutioners run into this all the time because they're like, I'm cutting out all these things, I'm doing all these things, and then they get to a place where the ship kind of crumbles, and then they're like, they throw everything out with the kitchen sink. Quadrant 3 is a great place to sit and reside because they'll teach you a lot about yourself and about your habits, but ultimately the landing platform and the finale is quadrant 4. And this is what I like to call unconscious competence. You're not really thinking about this. You're hyper aware of the foods that are going to be good for you and the nutrients are going to give you, and the foods that probably are going to rob you of your energy. They're going to steal your mood, or they're going to set you up for some kind of discomfort later, if not now. Short-term gratification for long-term delayed gratification and pain. Getting into this space here where you're unconsciously competent, you know the rules. If I wake up and I eat a cinnamon roll, the rest of my day is going to go. I wake up and I eat an apple. Feel pretty good. Feel good about the apple I ate, but I also know that I got some vitamin A, got some fiber, and I even got a little bit of carbohydrates and fructose, which is a natural sugar, and I feel good. Well, that one decision allowed you to go out and eat something well. Maybe you didn't have a salad, but you did say, hey, there was some leftover chicken from last night. Or I'm a vegan, so I had some whole lentil soup that I made. Either way, those are whole foods that are filled with tons of nutrients that are probably gonna upregulate your genes in a good way, and you're gonna have this energy. Knowing these things and this awareness of these are the things that make me feel this way and I don't want to feel that way. These are the things that make me feel good and they make me feel that way. You begin to make the decisions and you're not super aware of like, okay, I had exactly 4 ounces of this. I'm going to eat this. I'm going to see how I feel. I feel satiated. I'm good. And that level of awareness ultimately is where you want to go because you'll find yourself in a state of autonomy. That autonomy means freedom. Your ability to feel free and to feel energetic is going to make you not only feel good about yourself and having a positive self-rapport, but it's also going to empower you to have the energy that you're looking for to be able to crush your goals, especially outside of nutrition. And so these 4 quadrants, 1, 2, 3, and 4, play such a vital role in our level of awareness, which we talk about your competence, and ultimately your ability to succeed in achieving goals and finding your way. If you are in a position where you're like, Nick, you lost me on quadrant 1 or quadrant 2, that's okay. Listen, I used to confuse myself. This is just a way of being able to create a little bit of a structure. I invite you to come and be a part of the community. I would love to have conversations with you. There's other individuals just like you who are either on track or wanting to be on track with their health and more importantly with their nutrition and the way that they're feeling. I encourage you to join me. You can do so by clicking the link below. That will give you access to my back office community. We can have great conversations and learn more about each other and how Natt Fitness and what I'm talking about in these videos might be able to help. Secondly, please make sure you guys go and you click the subscribe button. Doing so and liking the video is going to help me understand exactly what direction I need to go with my content, so that way I could be a better servant to you and provide you guys with the information that's going to help you go next level with your goals. This is Nicholas Natt with Natt Fitness, signing off. Until next time.